Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're at. And welcome to this I titled it The Lowry That Changed the World. And I'll talk a little bit about that as I go. And I'll tell you why I title it that way, because it truly, Sean and Joni, and I believe it looks like Gail might be on. That's not her prison number. That's the number that comes up on her device. But I'll explain why that is. Many of us had the opportunity of seeing this instrument was introduced. And anyway, I'll get into all of that in a bit. I'm going to switch cameras from time to time. Hopefully this view is good for you here. And the lighting's okay. And I'm just going to open up with a fun number here. And here we go. Thank you, thank you. We hope you enjoyed that opening number. That was a style called the Vegas Big Band, by the way. And I'll try to remember to say that as I go. There is an owner or two here on that might have a Royale, so I'll kind of give you some of that feedback. But the Lowry that changed the world, and here is why I titled this event that way. Back in 2001, we had the Lowrey Royale was introduced for the very first time. And the interesting thing is everything you see and hear on all of the instruments today, and I'm going to ramble off a bunch of names of models: Stardust, Prestige, Legend, Sterling, Patriot, Easy 4, Easy 10, Easy 2, all the Easy series, the EYs, the Marquis, the Liberties, the Inspires, Journeys, all of those models actually functionally was influenced by what the Lowrey Royale did. In fact, it almost basically it paved the way for all of the models, and they knew how to put some on bigger organs more and a little bit of here, a little bit there, and just make it so that it was kind of the footprint to all of those models. Now, what makes this model probably one of the best values in its entire history is it has features and sounds that a lot of those have, and in some cases it even has more than what some of the newer models have. And you'll hear about that as I go. The first thing you can probably see from that angle there, and I'll switch cameras from time to time. This was the days, and I'll say this, I'll be politically correct as possible, but this was the days when the cabinets that Lowrey were having manufactured from their vendors, this was the days to me where the cabinets were truly a class act. This one here is obviously an actual oak, and then they came in the cherry as well. All of the models, the Royales obviously they had this beautiful roll top on it. Some people love this roll top so much they kept it down all the time, and they just drilled holes in it and they just kept it so they can have this look all the time. I'm just kidding. Don't do that if you have an organ with a roll top. But it's really nice, and and it helps from having the dust all the time. The other beautiful thing about the instrument too is the layout of the instrument is actually similar to all the other models, but you'll notice that we have this, what we call this, the rack extender, and you will notice that it has the rack extenders because of the size of the instrument and the extra, and putting all of the extra information on it. The instrument has to be taller to accommodate the roll top, but the music rack up here for some is a little bit challenging depending on your height, and even if you are tall enough, it's still a bit challenging because of the eyesight. And so Lowrey simply put this rack extender here, which pulls out, and believe it or not, it pulls out almost if I had to guess, about 6 inches and about 2 or 3 inches lower. So it actually brings the music literally at eye level right in front of you. And it's what a lot of people don't realize is even the smaller models, there are a lot of models that are in the smaller size category. Besides the Easy 4s and the 10s, there's a Conductor, there's a Voyager, all the models in that size category. We've had a lot of students actually find that this is easier for them to see the music because it's right here in front of them. Now here's another kind of a neat thing, and I'm going to see if I can pull this off here. The lighting of the instrument, let me turn off all the lights here. And I think what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to have Victor, could you hit the light switches off? So this is the instrument. It lights up nicely on the dash. And of course, you can't see it from this view. Maybe we'll switch cameras here just in case. Let's see here. I don't know if that view can see it, but down here you'll notice there's actually, he's going to angle it so you see the lights that light up on the pedals. Not that people use the pedals, but when it's dark it's kind of nice to have them there lit up just in case. And then back onto the dashboard there, you'll also notice that our ABC lights, you have light up on both. And you actually, if you notice, take a look at this. You have a dim lighting, a bright lighting, or off. I kind of like the in-between, so I have the lights handy. And then, of course, for those who like to use the music rack and the music, you'll see that it lights up on the top there. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back on the panel there and turn the lights back on. So that's just another, just cosmetically, they did a phenomenal job. And the wood grains in these really show very nicely. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And then the bench is really fabulous, by the way. I'll get back to that in a little bit. So if I forget, don't forget to tell me about the bench, tell you about the bench. All right. Now, when the Royale was introduced, I don't know if you recall or have seen or heard in the travels an artist by the name of Lowrey, from Lowrey, it was Paul Schaub. Anybody familiar with the name Paul Schaub? Carol shaking her head yes. Some of you may have not. You might be a little newer. Paul has been in the industry for many, many years. Recently retired, lives actually in the Tucson area here. He's written owner's manuals for Lowrey over the years. He's actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think he even did some of the owner's manuals for the new Estes as well. He's known as the professor at Lowrey because he's really good at teaching workshops and classes and things like that. But we were fortunate, and Joni, you don't know this, but in Arizona, he was the artist that officially rolled out the Royale for us. And I'll remember and forget the day, the first show. Of course, I knew what he was up to in the other shows. He went around the room and he put a little 3x5, those little index cards, and he put it on the table everywhere. And he put a little, one of those golf pencils. And before the show started, actually he opened up with a number and then, did his thing and talked a little bit. And he says, now everybody, you have a little index card. Write this down. And he said, write down the words touch and scroll. And he let everybody take the time to do it. And he says, now put that in your wallet, put it in your purse, don't lose it. There is your owner's manual for the Lowrey Royale. And we all laughed at that, whatever. But when we, throughout the show, the point was that, yeah, you got a thick owner's manual, one of those books that has all the stuff in it. He says, but on the Lowrey Royale, it's so easy to use that if all you use is the touch and scroll system with the touch screen here, you literally can get everything out of this instrument, and it's almost self-intuitive because all of the features that are built in are right here in the screen. I'll address that from time to time. So I'll come back to that in a minute. To the left of the model here, we have what everybody loves about their Lowreys is the rhythm styles. And you're going to notice, switch to camera view here. You may notice that here on the dash here, we have 24 blue buttons and 24 blue buttons that represent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 variations for every style. So there's 7 times 24. Do the math. That is 168 different rhythm styles at your fingertips. And every one that you do is magically set up perfectly. So I just went to one of the other buttons here. It says Broadway, and on my screen it says New York Swing. Listen to this. I think you have an idea what song I'm going to play. Here we go. That was New York Swing, New York, which was perfect for that. And let's go back to touch and scroll. Now the screen here, which a little bit difficult to see from probably the camera views, but it's real simple. It's a touch screen. This was the very first time the touch screen came out. And ever since then, if you had a model without a touch screen, we were missing it. And all of the models, flagship models. Now keep in mind, the Lowrey Royale, when it was introduced, was the flagship model, was the most expensive home organ in the world at that time. But it is a touchscreen and it's interactive. Now on the screen there's a button. It says disk if I want to use the disk drive to save and record songs, which you can do. There is what's called a keypad, which you can dial in numbers and sounds right out of the book instead of scrolling through everything. And there's what they call a Genius button, which gives you views of every sound that's on the instrument. And one of my favorite buttons on here, and some of you have this feature, this was when it was introduced. Now, some of you said you had the Premier. I heard an Easy 4, an Easy 10, Freedom 3. All of those models have a feature on there that's a pretty good feature. It's called Song Setup. All right? Now, the Freedom 3, the Easy 4, the Easy 10 all have 100 song setups. The Premier, someone said they had a Premier, that has 200 song setups. The Royale, are you ready for this? Has 500 song setups. That always gets Sean sounding a little loopy. It's intoxicating, isn't it? 500 song setups. Here's what this means. It's not, and I've taught a couple classes on how you can use every song setup, but the more song setups you have, it's not about having to use them all. It's the more choices you have, the more songs you select out of your books, the more the opportunity of you having a setup for it is in here. Now here's the beauty of this. When you use the song setups, on here, a majority of the song setups are designed to give you what's called a signature style. In other words, when you pick the song setup, and all I'm going to do is remember what I said, touch and scroll. So I touched and I scroll, and there's 4 titles on the screen at a time, and if I touch it, it goes to another page of 4. Now, you may not be able to see that from here, but I'm on the A's, and I'm going to touch and I'm going to get to the M's. Now, 500 song setups, the M's is probably somewhere in the middle. What happens is this thing is so super fast. Watch this. I'm going to touch it. Starts going, and then it just zips, and then right there I'm on the M's already. It got up to 200 song setups just like that. And, oh, I'll just use the one on the screen. It says Mr. Sandman. Remember the song Mr. Sandman? And a lot of people associate it with the Chordettes, if I'm not mistaken. These beautiful voices singing. When you press Mr. Sandman for the song setup, it automatically gives me one of the new signature styles that was introduced. It's called Sand E Man. Boy, they're very clever. Are you getting this, Carol? I'm recording this too, so you can always go back and watch it on YouTube. So I pressed Mr. Sandman for the song setup. It selected the style. It selected the tempo. It selected the right hand, upper keyboard, lower keyboard. It set up everything automatically. And tell me, this sounds just like the recording that I've heard of Mr. Sandman. Wasn't that great? We had some and that was just using the song setup. Let me do another one here for you, because what I love about this is there's so many rhythm styles here. Sometimes I can't remember where all the styles are in the buttons. That ever happens to you? You know you've got it somewhere, but you can't remember, and then you have to open up an owner's manual, look at the rhythm chart, and do all this hoopla, do the do-si-do, whatever. Here you just pick a song setup, and it tells you where that is. So, for example, if I'm still in the M's, I found another one that was very exciting. It says Memory from Cats. So if you remember the musical Memory, the Cats, the song Memory, this is actually the exact arrangement from Memory from Cats. Now I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to see if you could see this as I press it. I'm going to touch Memory from Cats and watch the entire board change for me automatically. Everything's set up automatically, ready to go. And I'm going to have the perfect arrangement for Memory from Cats, and this is just like the musical. Here we go. You had to get the cat in there. Yes, isn't that fun? So everything they do in the initial arrangements to make it sound just like it was when it was most popular, those signature styles. You're going to hear a lot of these signature styles, and they're very easy to catch on to. Now, what would an organ be without a lot of presets or setups? Years ago, in the 90s, actually 1990, Lowrey invented a button called Rhythm Preset, which eventually became titled Style Setup. So Style Setup, Rhythm Preset. What's the difference? The only difference is the title, the way it's worded. The functionality is the same. So it sets up the entire instrument for you. And if you're looking on the dash here, if you can see it from that angle here, right here, there are 10 presets, okay, or setups. We always refer to them as setups. And there's something else outside of here that I'll touch on in a bit. But this is probably, to me, gold. And if you have a Premier or an Easy 10, you're familiar with this functionality. But Lowrey took it a step further because all the flagship models do much more than what you see here. So these 10 presets, if I just turn it on and push one, I have 10 wonderful setups in here that give me some of the best sounds. And I'll play a little bit of those, and then I'm going to tell you how they took it further to give you much more at your fingertips. And here's the beauty of this. And in fact, I want you to, someone could do the math on this. There is 10 plus 1, that is 11. 11 times 168 rhythms equals how much? All right, well, you figure that out. We'll get back to that number, and I'll address it. But if I just turn it on and I just push one of these buttons, I get these beautiful setups here. I get, you know, just from a, if I want the Radio City Music Hall sound, that big theater organ. Or right down the street, I got the St. Patrick's Cathedral Church organ. Manavani String Orchestra. Let me change the camera view for here. The Manavani String Orchestra. Listen to these beautiful carillon chimes. Tabernacle Choir. And there's so many other sounds in there. Now, if you're wondering, how does Robert know what all of those sounds are in there? Well, I'm going to tell you. Now, did you come up with the number, by the way? Anybody? 168 times 11?
1828.
So 1,828 presets. Now it doesn't stop there, and I'll tell you how in a minute. But
14 and
that
48.
is, if give or take, 1,800 presets built into the organ, and I can show you, even if you've never played one of these, how you'll know every sound you're going to get before you press it, even if you've never played on this instrument. Are you ready for this? There is a feature on the lower left here. There's a button. They're called custom buttons. And what it's designed to do is you can put your favorite features of the organ in here. All right? This one is programmed in here. And I can tell you, 99% of the people I know that have this never change this button. They may customize the other ones, but this one they never change. Have you ever met a fellow student that you wondered, how do they know so much about their organ? They must really be smart about technology. It's because they use the screen. The screen is talking to us and feeding us information. There's a button here it's labeled 4. When I press it, it's a feature that's called preset information. Now, some of you are familiar with this somewhat. On the Easy series, there's a sound that comes up on the screen for the upper and lower, but it only tells you what sound is there when you press another sound. When I press it here, the screen will show up and it numbers 1 through 10, and it tells me what sound is in there. So for example, 2 says pipe organ, 3 says theater organ, 4 says strings, 5 says chimes, and that's how I knew what sound. Oh, you're gasping, Carol. You probably didn't know that button existed. It's been there all along. I'm gonna tell you, if there's a button that you wear out, students wear out that button. And to this day, and this is a fact, to this day, every performer, Sean, Joni, Jerome, I'm looking, Don, every one of us, even the pros that been playing, you know, the child prodigies, the Marcos, when they're playing, they always use that button because the screen is talking to them. So when we're playing, we don't have to guess at what sound is there. So if I'm playing and I say, oh, listen to this sound of this, I'm going to tell you right now it's because I'm looking at the screen. Okay? We don't always tell you that because it just makes us look like we really know what we're doing. When really all we know how to do is read. It's really great. So when I'm using, now this is the part where 168 rhythms, 10 buttons, turns into over 1,800 presets. There's a button here called Rhythm Preset. Now you should all be familiar with this. You either have a rhythm preset, a style setup, or an auto setup button. Okay? And here's what that means. When you select a rhythm style and you have rhythm preset on or style setup, depending on the organ you have, or auto setup, that's a great feature to have on because it automatically sets up the organ for you. It's nice. You have the balances. It's perfect. So, for example, I'm going to push over here a button called Foxtrot. And in my categories there, I have what's called tap, soft. Oh, this is fun. Razzmatazz. All right. And I have rhythm preset. So it set up the whole organ for me. I don't have to touch anything else, just play. Now before I play, I'm going to come over and reach down and press the button, Custom 4. And the screen pops up and it says 8 is going to be a piano sound, 6 I'm going to get a solo instrument, 10 is a finale sound, 4 is strings, etc., etc. So as I'm playing, I'm just going to glance at the screen once in a while and I'm going to choose one that I just feel like touching at the moment. So I'm always using that. So here's what that means. When Rhythm Preset is selected, and I choose one rhythm, I get one setup for that style. These 10 presets also transform into 10 other setups for that one style. So essentially, I have 11 different setups for the upper and the lower right keyboard, because I have the split keyboard here. That's going to give me 11 different setups perfectly for this razzmatazz. If I put on big band and I do the same thing, I'm going to get 11 different setups for the big band. If I put on soliloquy, 11 different setups, etc., etc. And that's how it translates into over 1,800 setups. And you never have to guess because the screen is always speaking to you. Let me switch the view here for you and listen. Do a little razzmatazz. This is the actual signature style for When the Saints Go Marching In. So you can do a lot of great Dixieland songs and what have you, but all of the fill-ins are perfectly built into it. Such another preset. All right, we're gonna have a little fun here. What I'm gonna do is I've got you on my gallery view, and I could see some of the faces. I could see Carol, I could see Fred, Renee, Linda, and Gloria. All right. I'm gonna call your name and just put your hand up in the air and give me a number. And Jeannie too. I want you to give me a number from 1 through 10 as we're playing, and I'm just gonna start in the order that I see it. Okay. So Gloria, give me a number from 1 through 10. Is that a 3? Okay, here we go. Jeannie? Is that 10? Here we go, number 10. Ooh, I like that. Carol, number 1 through 10, Carol. 4? 5? Nod, yes. 5? Okay. Oh. Oh, gorgeous. We got a number 9, Fred. Shake your head. Okay. Number 9. Woo! Renee, number from 1 through 10. Try to pick a different one. We got a 7. All right. Linda, 2. Ooh, I don't know what happened, but that's cool. Alright, and I'm going to finish with back to 0. You guys are great arrangers. Every preset you gave me was perfect. Thank goodness for that, all right? And that's the idea, is that when you're using the presets on these, anytime you're using the presets, if you just put the screen up, and I just took a chance and just said, give me some numbers randomly. Those numbers will change every time that I'm playing. Now let me play another style, and I'll just bounce around. I'm going to try to use the same numbers you just gave me. And let's just switch it up. Totally different style altogether. So I'm going to put on, for example, a style here called, I said it a little earlier, and it is a style called soliloquy. All right. And here it is. This is just a gorgeous style. I've actually featured this style many times in concerts over the years, on some of our Zoom musicals, and sometimes I remember to let everybody know what style it is, and sometimes I don't. What a lot of people don't realize is it originally was introduced on this model. And from what I understand, the artist that they had programmed this style put so much stuff in this orchestration, it made it very difficult for them to put it on this model. And the artist, he's been out of the industry for many years, but way back when, he was known to be the best in the world, and never played a note of music using music. He played everything by ear. And he was known for these amazing arrangements that only he could do, and he programmed this style. And the song that I typically play it with is Theme from Ice Castles, Through the Eyes of Love, which is a gorgeous song. Now here's the thing. If you want to play any other ballad, any other song whatsoever with this style, it works perfectly. I played Memory for Cats, you can do it with that. You want to play Oh Holy Night, you could do it with that. You want to play Over the Rainbow, you can work with that. Anything that's nice and slow is perfect. And the horns, and I'll just bounce around, try to use some of the same numbers that you guys called out. So here it is, Soliloquy, and here we go. Thank you. Thank you. Hold the applause, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Isn't that gorgeous? Just some wonderful stuff. Now, by the way, folks, no tricks here. All I'm doing is selecting a style like I would on any other model, and I'm just using the presets. Or, from time to time, I'm going to go up to my 500 song setup list, touch and scroll to whatever I want, and just let it choose it for me. Now, here's a little practicing tool that we sometimes will offer to students. And we'll say, you know, maybe if you're playing that song, maybe you're having a little trouble with it, and if it's a little faster, you know, sometimes we got to get comfortable with the notes, right? Especially if it's a faster beat. So there's all sorts of little things that the instructors do. One of the things they will suggest and recommend is just turn on the instrument, turn on your easy button. Okay, and I'll just do that. I'm going to just turn it on from scratch. And I'll just let it power up and put on the easy button. And then use a sound or preset or whatever it is that you like. And that way you don't have to worry about timing because we're not using a rhythm here. And so you put your music up, play whatever song that you want to play. Maybe get comfortable with the notes first before you try it out with a rhythm. There's one little downside to that. That can be a boring way of doing it. And here's what I mean. So if I want to play, let's say I'm learning Somewhere Over the Rainbow or something like that, okay? And I say, well, I want to put, Robert said something about 4 being that, you know, that Manavani string orchestra, or it kind of sounds like 101 strings or something like that, or the choirs, whatever. Just going to use a preset, and I'm going to try playing the song. That's okay. I guess that'll work, but we've talked about this in some of the classes, that hum gets kind of a little old after a while, and it's just, and then people just avoid it and so forth. Well, Lowrey has a feature on here that's really great because you can use it with or without rhythm. So if you're practicing or rehearsing, or maybe we just want to play a song without rhythm. Sometimes I like to play a hymn or a beautiful ballad. I'll start off with no rhythm, but I don't want that hum sound just all the time. So there's a feature over here called Golden Harp. Now this is amazing because no matter what chord you play, it'll always play the correct notes for you. Now think about that. The Golden Harp will never play the wrong notes. It always takes the chord and it'll automatically play the notes. And what Golden Harp is it does what's called an arpeggio. An arpeggio is if you take a sound, for example, like this. Here's a harp manually. All right. Okay. An arpeggio is when you play a series of notes based on a chord and you do this. Let me switch the camera here so you can. This is not easy, so I might make a mistake here. There we go. Whoops. Something like that. What the Golden Harp does is it does that for you automatically. Now here's what's cool. I told you there were 8. So I'm going to turn on the instrument. I'm going to put on my easy button. And I'm just going to hold the chord here for a minute. And what you're going to notice, let me turn down the sound a little bit. That's Golden Harp 1. It's going up and down. Golden Harp 2, up only. Golden Harp 3, down only. Virtuoso, it's like all 3 together. Step pattern. Now notice I'm just touching the screen what I see. Guitar pattern. Skip pattern. Banjo pattern. It's the pattern, not a banjo sound. And I can pick whatever pattern I want, play at whatever speed I want, and listen. You can even change the sound of the harp by simply pressing a button. Like I said earlier, if you want to use a rhythm with it, you can use any rhythm with it. One of my favorite rhythm styles is a rhythm style here called smooth piano. And then partway through, I will turn on the Golden Harp. Listen. The harp. There we go. Some really just gorgeous sounds, and all I'm doing is using the features that we have that I mentioned. Now, I've got to show off some of the other wonderful styles here, because right here in the panel here, you just touch, use your presets, scroll through the sounds. If you like country music, here's a great signature style. Now, I think you might know what song I'm going to play. I'll tell you the name of the style. It's called Crazy Country. No, I didn't say the song Crazy. I said the name of the style is called Crazy Country. But yeah, the song I'm going to play is Crazy. Let's put on the intro here. Here we go. Round of applause for the Royale. Yes, these instruments have feelings, don't they? Now, I don't know if you noticed this from time to time as I was playing, but right here, I've been reaching up, touching this. Let's see if I can change the view here a little bit so you can see this. Come on, go down. There we go. Make you a little dizzy for a moment. Okay. So right here, if you can see it from that angle, there's a black strip here. And right here, there's one that's kind of a divider. And this is just famously known as the touch bar. Okay? And in fact, there's two touch bars. And I'm not going to go through all the examples, but what I can tell you is this touch bar can do up to 16 different things. Now, I can tell you, the Royale was introduced in 2001, and to this day, I still not have used all 16 things. I think I've used 12 of them. Why? Because the idea is that you use it what benefits you, okay? Now, to change it, all we have to do is touch and scroll, remember? So I'm going to hit touch on the screen here, and I'm going to scroll up to a feature on the screen that just simply says touch bar. And on the screen, and you may not be able to see it from that angle, but it has words. On the left it says FX, or fill, and on the right it says glide. And if I touch it, I can scroll through up to 16 different functions. Now I'll just read them to you. Fill in, tap tempo. Tap tempo, by the way, it means you can actually tap out how fast or slow you want the tempo. The benefit of that is a lot of people when they're playing and you try to use the tempo, we can't always get it right by just adjusting it here. But sometimes we know, boy, if I was playing it at this speed, that would be perfect. You can actually tap it out and then it'll do it for you. You can start or stop your rhythms from here instead of reaching up. You can transpose up. The transposer's here, but if you want to program it here, the reason for this is that if there's a feature you like to use a lot, and we don't want to move our hands off the keyboard to do it, if it's right here, you could literally just use the palm of your hand and touch the touch bar. You can increase or decrease the tempo. You can program intros. You can actually program a fade out. Now, I've noticed a lot of the artists, even Jerome did it the other day, but he didn't tell anybody what he did. He used the fade out button, and all he did was program it, and then it just does it automatically for you. And here's one that I love. The famous no chord. Are you all familiar with the no chord? Known as the smash. So, for example, if I've got a rhythm on, all right, and I want to do the no chord, you can do the smash. Some people don't always get it right, though. They hit it, and then they have beaten up with the organ a little bit. Then you have to do a service request and say, something's wrong with my organ. Those notes aren't playing. We know why. You're smashing your notes. No, just kidding. So you could actually program the no chord right here. Now watch. Automatically turns everything off for you. And then just click up. And the other thing you can do is you can program. Here's a cool thing. Some people just will never learn, unfortunately. Maybe no one in this group. We have some students that unfortunately will never be able to learn to play more than one finger chords. They may do the C, the F. Sometimes that seventh chord or minor chord is just too hard to do. Here's another thing. I've actually had some students over the years, not many, that come to us and their hands have certain handicaps to them. Sometimes there's rheumatoid arthritis. I had a student, a classical pianist, trained. Her left hand was so bad she could only had use of 2 fingers. And after a while and convincing her that she could do this, because she wanted to really play it. That's the way the use of the touch bar allows us to do 1 finger, minor, seventh, and even diminished chords. And it's just real simple. If you put on here's an easy button, here's a C chord. If I have the 7th and I touch it, it gives me a 7th chord. Or I can do a diminished, and listen closely. Or a minor chord. So you can do whatever chord you want. The point is you can use this for any way that you want. And one of the most popular reasons why people, you could even do sound effects. You know, it's always good to have some birds nearby, or you want to have a little fun. You can throw a horn, car crash. One day, Sean was late to work. Sean is here. He was late to work and says, I just could not get my car started. And then finally I got it going, and I had to rush. And he was going real fast. I had to hurry up and get to work, and then he had to stop because there was a kitty in the road, and then oh my goodness, he didn't want to hit the cat, and then he's going so fast, and then all of a sudden what happened? You know what happened? Oh gosh, he got in a car crash. Yes, and that was the excuse for being late. Yes, the tall tales that he tells, I tell you. And then you can even have moves. If you make a mistake, you can go, bad note. And so forth and so forth. You have some fun with that. But one of the most the popular ones, you could even do a light show, is the glide. Sometimes people like to play Hawaiian music. You could actually do this. Instead of the foot switches of the pedals, that's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with that. And you never have to worry about that volume pedal. So anyway, you can do all sorts of fun things with the touch bars. And its default setting, you have the fill-in and the glide here. You can do it back and forth. If you decide you want to use the foot switches, anything that can be done here can be programmed on the foot switches and can be programmed on the pedals. The point is, you use it to what you need it for. Now let's have a little fun with some of the styles here. Fall is upon us. It is officially, what is it, September 21st? Is that usually when fall kicks in or so? And I always think it's great to have a style of music that's perfect for the fall. I always open up with a number sometimes during the fall season, and I play the song Autumn Leaves, but not just any way, because I'm going to play Autumn Leaves like, I think it was Roger Williams, if I'm not mistaken. He used to play, did this recording of the Fallen Leaves, and he'd play the notes, And then he'd do what is called this cascade piano effect that would sound something like this. No, actually it would sound better than that. That's hard to do. You got to be a professional, classically trained pianist to be able to do that. It'll do it automatically in the touch bar. Listen. So many wonderful signature styles on here. I wish I had all day to play them all for you. I'll play a few more for you. But we talked about general presets. Those were the 10 that you get when you first turn on the instrument. Then we talked about the rhythm preset, which gives us 11 for 168 styles, which was 1,800 and something. But there's another part of the organ that gives you an extra group of settings. Now, the way I like to look at setups and presets is I always tell people it's like having a recipe book of, in this case, 1,800, 1,900, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 1,330. It's about nearly 2,000 presets. So imagine a recipe book with 2,000 recipes, only instead of having to go out and get the ingredients and doing all of the work and cooking and so forth, you could push a button and a chef would come over your house and do it for you instantly in a matter of seconds. Boy, would that be a dream. I think I saw that on Star Trek once. They put it in and they just call it out. Well, that's what it's like. You have all these recipes at your fingertips that are automatically there for you. Now, some models actually have what's called an A and a B, and some have a button that's called Big Man. And here's what this means. Over here we have what's called bank presets. Programmed from the factory, you have A, B, C, D, and E. Each one has 10 automatically programmed sounds in there for you. You can also customize those. So if you want to save your own sound settings, it's as easy as this. You find a sound you like, you push Memorize, A1. You find another sound you like, you stumble across it by accident. Oh, I like that. I don't want to write it all down and try to remember it. Memorize A2, that easily, etc., etc. Then we have what's called category setups. We have a button called Theater, Country, Big Band, Shows, Latin, and there's more, Scared. Oh, I mean Sacred. I guess if you read it, I read it wrong, sorry. Sacred, Modern, Brass, and Jazz. And these are all at your fingertips by just pressing. Now, again, do you remember what I said? You never have to guess what's there. All you have to do is press a category or bank preset, touch Custom 4, and it'll tell you all the setups. Let me switch views here. I'm going to play my favorite category here, the D bank, and I'm going to touch Custom 4, and this gives me all of these gorgeous symphonic sounds. I have piano concertos, a violin concerto. I'm not going to say it's the Stradivarius, but oh, I just did, didn't I? And this is recording. Oh my goodness. the sound of the horn concertos, the strings, pizzicato strings, full strings, you name it. I'll try to call it off as I press it because you won't see it on the screen like I do. I'll start off with the cello here. Listen to this. Oh, that's a chamber strings. Cello. Chamber strings. Violin concerto. Horn concerto. That's a different song. Sorry. I just sound that sound. I thought that'd be great for that. I kind of like have ADD with music sometimes. Full strings. Forte strings. Oh, gosh, it's so much fun. I hope you're enjoying some of the music here today. But I got a couple more styles to play for you. And then I got a fun style that a lot of people think is a very hard song to play. And I have news for you. It is. But I'm going to show you a little trick. Because this is one of those songs, and I'll get to it when I finish, but this is one of the songs that I've never been able to play it technically the way the notes are written, and I cheat. I use the instrument to my advantage. I'm going to play one more style here for you. I haven't done any waltzes yet, so I think it's only fitting that I play a waltz. Now, anyone have a chance to hear Jerome recently in some of the classes that he's been teaching? I don't know if you noticed, but he's been playing a lot of Christmas music. And I have to tell you something. Jerome is pretty clever because he knows. Last year in our store here, I thought he was nuts. So why do you want to teach Christmas music early? It's September. He says, telling you, everybody does it every year. They start learning their songs in November. This is a good time to teach music. And yeah, he was right. But this year, I think he used the same excuse. But this year, I think it's because he got so tired of hearing the word COVID. He wanted to play some Christmas music to lighten the mood, you know? Or it's a combination of both. But here's a style that the Lowrey Royale has. And let me tell you something. There are very few waltzes that I play on Lowrey instruments. This is one of them that I do play. It is such a pretty style. And it's not so pa like a lot of waltzes are. You know what there's actually a waltz on here called pa waltz. You know, the country waltz is nice. That's a country flavor. You know, they got a lot of nice little waltzes on here. This waltz here, to me, is one of my favorites, and it's simply labeled Lullaby. And when you hear this, this has some of the most gorgeous setups and sounds um, that you'll ever hear at any of the waltzes on any of the models. The Lowrey Royale introduced it, and ever since then, every flagship model has this style. So here we go, Lullaby. I'm going to switch cameras here, and you'll see why I love this style. Wasn't that gorgeous? It just, and at the end, very end there, I don't know if you noticed, I reached up and I decided to use the golden harp and try out a couple of golden harps with it. That all I did was I put on the Lullaby rhythm preset, and then I went to rhythm preset 2. And by the way, there's one other button on here that I have to share the secret, and I did it a few times, and shame on me, I haven't told you. Right up on the dash here, there's a button that's called Alter Style. When I was playing New York, New York, and at the very end they had that big finale sound, I reached up and hit Alter Style. When I was playing the Vegas Big Band, same thing. What Alter Style does, this is one of the coolest buttons. And I'll tell you why. Now, we've talked about it here and there in the classes. It takes every one of the 168 styles on this instrument. Okay? And when you press it, it does what it says. It just alters that style. And it's foolproof. It's programmed to have the best arrangement that you possibly can have with that style. So it never sounds bad. So essentially, it takes the 168 styles that you have, and it doubles the 168 styles by having an alter style at your fingertips. So that is just a phenomenal feature. And the question I always get is, when do I use that button? Well, the answer is, you may not like this, but the answer is whenever you feel like it. When I was playing the Lullaby style that you just saw, I used the lullaby style, and then I reached up, and then I hit alter style. And so when you heard the style doing this, let me put it back on here. Here's the style of what it was without alter style. And I'm going to reach up and hit alter style. And listen. And that's how I got the jingle jangle. Are you writing this down, Carol? We're going to pop quiz you pretty soon. So alter style just does a wonderful lot of things, and it's the easiest thing to do. You just reach up and touch it. Now, before I play my last number, I can't forget to tell you this. You were supposed to remind me, but as I was sitting here, I was going to ask someone to get me a cup of water, and I have a place for it. Victor, can you move that camera back a little bit? Because the bench on these models are pretty spectacular. Let me change the camera view here. This bench is pretty cool. Check this out. Okay, you can sit on it. That's kind of nice. You can sit on the bench, right? But it's actually a very wide bench that has, when you're sitting on it, let's face it, what we've realized, folks, is that, and just to show of hands, does anybody have a few music books that you own? You probably have at least 3 or maybe 4, 5, 10. Over time, we collect them, right? In fact, I had a student that said they had over 100 music books. And I said, well, why do you have so much? Because sometimes I have to buy one book for one song. Hal Leonard, boy, they know how to do it. But there's never going to be a bench big enough for all of our music. But it's always nice to have the ones that we're working on for the week or some handy. We always have those songs that we want to work on or just have our favorites nearby. And so on here, you never have to get off the bench. You can actually very easily store music on both sides. Let me see if I move this here. And you can do it here. In fact, this bench here actually has slots for floppy disks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like you can store at least 12 here, and of course you can store more than that if you want. Well, what's really nice is, and you have a little spot here in case you want to put your martinis here. And you have your little stirring sticks or your cup of coffee, maybe. The best thing to do is when you're playing a song that you're not very good at, is have a couple glasses of wine, set it here, because for some reason it always sounds better after a couple glasses, and you're doing just good. So it's a really great bench. We'll put it back over here, and then I'm going to finish with one last song, because this song, I prepped you on how I cheat for this song. And before I do that, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you had a fun time, and hope you enjoyed my presentation. I can see you all there. We were doing okay. A little thumbs up, or this, or this, this. I really appreciate your time. The Lowrey Royale, all of these features you hear, I said the Lowrey that changed the world, because once this model was introduced, it seemed like every flagship model thereafter basically followed in its footsteps. The Lowrey Aria, the Lowrey Marquis, the Grand Marquis, those models that pretty much retailed in the $80,000 plus range for over the last few years may look slightly different because of the color in the panel, but believe it or not, they're set up very similar. You have your rhythms, you have your orchestrals, you have your solos, your sounds, your upper, lower, you have your presets. They all work very similar. And if you also noticed, in a lot of the product workshop feature classes, if you noticed, I put in there the A-Series product feature class. I don't know if you noticed, but I always say SU owners are encouraged to attend, and vice versa. When we teach a class on the SU, we say A-Series or owners are encouraged to attend. The reason for that is because the layout is very similar. Now, sure, some of the larger models have more of this stuff, but operationally they all work very, very similar. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. Starting next week, we are going to be doing a series of events all week long and all throughout the month, really, called MAD, Member Appreciation Days. And the idea of this is, since April, the world has changed. And this instrument changed the world in 2001. I thought it was kind of fitting to feature this model this week, because what better way to say thank you? Well, first of all, by saying thank you, because we wouldn't be here today without our students here. We kind of had poked a little fun at Carol how we had to work to deliver that instrument, but when it was all said and done, it was probably worth it to me just as much as it was used, because I know when I left your house, I said she is going to be on cloud 9 playing that Lowrey Royale. I mean, that sound in your room there with that sound, I get chills just even thinking about it. But without you folks, we wouldn't be here today. And all throughout the month, we're going to be all doing a series of classes and concerts and events and things wrapped around member appreciation and basically saying thank you by trying to do something a little different than our norm. The one thing about the Lowrey Royale is, what I will tell you, and I'm going to encourage the staff members to reach out to you. Listen very closely to this. For a limited time during member appreciation, we are going to offer this magnificent instrument. Now, some of you are familiar with a fanfare, Journey, Inspire, Legacy even, Rhapsody. Those models are typically 2 or 3 steps above the models that you guys said you had. We are offering right now Royales for a very limited time for less than those models that I just mentioned. So in other words, you can jump up 5 steps less than the price point of 1 step. And if you're curious as to is this worth it, just send a little private chat to Carol Montgomery there, and what better spokesman to have than a person that actually has one, or ask any Royale owner. It is truly a phenomenal instrument that can get you into a top of the line in a very small 1-step price point, and way less than what we normally would have to ask for this. Member appreciation is probably the best way I could say thank you. Now, I'm going to finish off with this song. I know it as the, I can't remember the name of it. I'd call it the Hi-O Silver song. What's the name of that song? Isn't it the Lone Ranger song?
William Tell Overture?
Oh, I always thought it was the Lone Ranger song. No, it's the William Tell Overture. If you ever listen to the song, the William Tell Overture, da, 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 you could hear the da, 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 the rolling of the notes. In order to play that song, if you actually see the music, you have to have really skilled hands to play the notes correctly. I cheat. I use the style. This style here is pretty cool because it's called, where is it at? I know it's in there. There it is. It's called Classic Western. And when I play the notes, rather than playing the notes like I'm supposed to, because quite frankly I can't. Let me see if I can angle this here so you can see it a little better. Okay. All right. See if that angle works there. I'm going to turn the volume down just so you can hear this. The way the notes are supposed to be played is something like, you can already tell it's not an easy thing, and there are very skilled people that can roll their fingers at just the right, because there's a bunch of 16/8 and 18 and 16 notes that you have to play it just right. And there's very few people out there that can do it. When I play the song, I let the rhythm do all of the work, and I just hold the notes. Now that doesn't sound like it would be right, but it almost fools the ear, and because there's strings and the horns involved, and you're just holding the note, it almost tricks the ear into making it sound like you're actually playing the notes while the background is doing it. So when I open up with the introduction and you hear the horns and so forth, when it starts playing, listen to the guitar sound strutting almost in the tempo and the beat and the way the notes are played in the song. Here we go. Hi-yo, summer! Way! Oh, thank you, thank you. That was all built in, too. And a built-in applause for the Lowrey Royale, everybody. Let's give it up a big round of applause for our Lowrey Royale. Big round of applause. Woo! Woo! Oh, I have so much fun playing this instrument, boy, I tell you what. But do yourself a favor. Don't wait for the staff members to call you. Call them and say, tell me a little bit more about the Lowrey Royale, please. Until we see each other again, folks, thank you very much. Keep playing music. God bless. Stay safe. And mwah.